We call it capacity management. But in essence, it's how do we help these brokers have the best tools to go buy and sell truckload capacity online? And it starts with the carrier relationship. It starts with understanding who their carriers are and then escalating it further on, all right, what tools do we need to then communicate with the carriers digitally? And then how do we transact with the carriers digitally? How do we understand whether it's their core lanes, whether it's their service levels, how do we all wrap that into one single platform for our broker customers to ultimately, how do we find trucks faster? How do we help them automate some more of their business and focus on the relationship building? And then at the end of the day, use data to grow their business. So I think we've...
And that's the key word I heard a lot was data with your company. And people saying like it truly has changed the way they source carriers, has sped everything up and made it so much easier.
There's a lot to unpack there on the data piece on how do we help our customers find data, because there's data all over the place. There's data within their email inbox, there's data within their TMS, there's data on the load boards, and how do you put that into one streamlined interface, one single workflow so that the broker can ultimately, look, I just need to find the best truck for every single load and make sure that we're driving towards building a better relationship.
And how did you decide the balance between let's not overcomplicate it? Because I know that often, now I'm learning, you can't overcomplicate things for a lot of your customers and users. And with that much data and everything that you guys do, how are you handling the balance between like don't give them too much, guide them, lead the horse to the water?
Yeah, and I come from this technology background where all this data is really cool. And for example, these carrier profiles that we're trying to source for the brokers, their challenge is how do we move these one and done carriers out to more recurring carriers. And the challenge that they have though is that the data that they're acquiring is pretty limited. They got maybe 2 loads that they did with them in the last 90 days. That's not a lot of data to work off of, and maybe they'll try calling them. That takes time. They might have gotten data from the different load boards out there, and then too much data to what you're saying is, all right, well, Parade has done this exploration into all the different pieces of data that we can try to find the carrier, the load boards, some search history that the carrier might have done, because if they searched for something, maybe they're interested in that lane. And that's a signal. And then we take it even further where we send a lot of emails for our brokers. So for the brokers, we send these catered emails to the carrier saying, hey, I saw that you did freight out in Dallas to Florida over the last 2 weeks. Here's maybe 3 or 4 recommendations based off of that. And then we send these recommendations, but then the carrier clicks that email. They click this specific load out of the 5. We showed them a van and a van or reefer load. They click the van one. Okay, maybe they're interested in the van load. And so we go down this rabbit hole of, all right, well, maybe the clicks are great data. And the open events are data. And so we come all through that, and you're going to show that directly to a carrier sales rep. Whoa, that's too much information. What am I going to sift through 1,000 options here that may or may not be relevant for me? And so that's where our team comes in. That's where the product team has to really work with our data science team and try to boil this down into a number and ultimately a recommendation on, hey, dude, of the 1,000 data points that we found that maybe people have interest in this lane at this point in time, these 3 are the ones to go after. And we've actually already done the outreach for you, but just to let you know, like, this is who we're targeting. And so it has been this balance of like, what do we truly want to show and expose out to the carrier sales rep? And at the end of the day, it's also our customers' data as well. And so some of the what I love about this industry, there is a ton of technologists within it, folks that know how to use Power BI or Tableau and all these different business analytics tools, and maybe they actually do want data. And so we actually store that data for them. They can pull it out if they want to, start running their own analytics on it. But for the daily carrier sales rep use case, our job is to how do we simplify that down, boil it down to something easy so that they can just find the best trucks for their loads.